Sure. Okay, so good afternoon, everybody. I'm Francesco from Meta Cooperativa, and this is the fourth webinar in 5 webinars that we are running regarding the role-playing game in general. And in particular, today we're going to talk about RPG online and how to deal with it, and what are the platforms, what are the tools, what are the tips and tricks to run a smoothly campaign. And I'm not alone today. I'm with Ilias that support us for the technical part. And I'm also with Barbora, who will talk and will share some knowledge for us today. Before starting, actually, some of you might also have joined the other webinar, and we'll leave some assignments. I don't know if some of you tried or wants to share some of a knowledge, experience, how it goes. So it was about, if I'm not mistaken, implementing a role-playing game activity. So I'm wondering, any of you, I don't know, tried anything, want to say something about this?
Can I share?
Sure.
I am Natasha, and I'm representing the team called the RPG Lodge.
Okay.
We're based in Thessaloniki. And yes, it's very nice to listen to this webinar. Like our main activity is practically to making some gathering events for RPG. So once a month, we meet and we play several games. And we have done some like online talking. I can share you later the links about our Facebook page.
Thank you. Did you try something recently, or it's about properly tabletop role-playing game? It was about board games. It's about LARP experience. What is about, if you want to share?
Before COVID, we were only playing, like we were gathering and playing tabletop, but okay. Then we hosted also some online events.
That's good. And what platform did you use for the online things?
For talking and chatting and gathering up, we used Discord, and okay. Then we used Roll20.
That's great.
And sometimes Google Hangouts.
That's great. And how they went? Were you happy about those experiences and feedbacks? Were you satisfied?
In general, yes, we were not expecting, and also we had the opportunity to meet people that are not in our city. Also, I'm not living in the same city with my, let's say, partners in the team. So it was nice to do something together, even if we don't live in the same place, and also like people participate there as well.
That's great. Yes, I agree. I think that the digital thing allows a lot of freedom in order to gather people even from distant places, or during the pandemic, of course, when it wasn't possible to go out. It was a huge opportunity for some of us. In particular, actually, I take the chance to talk about this digital thing, the tabletop role-playing games. During the pandemic were used a lot in our cooperativa, the Meta Cooperativa, and it was great because it was a really a fundamental tool to keep in touch with the youth, and allowed us to link the people during that period of time. It was a great opportunity, I think. So thank you for your sharing. So if some of you wants to share something, some thoughts, otherwise we move on. And I would like to, I will leave Barbara introducing some aspects she will talk about. And so let's start.
All right, guys. Hello, I'm Barbara, and I'm representing Inspire from Czech. Now I will be sharing my screen. If there is any issue and you cannot see my screen, please let me know. I can adjust it.
We will.
But hope everything works. Now, so let's start from the beginning. What different kinds of RPG can you implement online? I will be introducing, as you can see on the outline, text RPGs, audio, video, executed RPGs, and game books, which are also called hyperlink fictions. And then there will be a quick discussion about what you think, what would be your preferred style of RPG, if you have any experience with any of them, and so on. So, text RPGs are in general the most comfortable one for most people, because you have a time and your own pace in writing what your character is doing. I have a this is RPG we are playing with my friends. Excuse me, I'm sorry, it's in Czech only. I do not play any English RPG, but this is what text RPG looks like. Each of the player has their own character, and they are writing what their character is doing, what they are saying, and this way we are creating a story. It is kind of like co-creating a fan fiction or a book or just a written story. There are two main types. One of them is RPGs in real time, when all of the players are sitting at their computers or wherever they are playing at the same time, and they are responding immediately as the message from the previous player arrives. Now, this in real time kind of text RPG is the best for the immersion. You are in the moment. As if you are reading a book, you are just going through the story, you are in the character, you feel the stuff. It's really, I love it. It's my favorite. I grew up on text RPGs. But on the other hand, you have to reserve a certain amount of time, and it can be really exhausting because you are reading and writing for, I don't know, from 1 hour up to 4 hours, depending on how intense the scene is, how much time you and your party have, and so on. So it can be exhausting. But for me, it is better experience, more intense experience. Now, the forum style, it's about longer chunks of descriptions of what your character is doing, and they are posted over a longer period of time. For instance, I write what my character is doing on Monday when I get off work, and another player writes what their character did in response in Wednesday when they are on a tram or something. So the pace is a lot slower, and the information in a text, there is more information in text. And in general, you have more time to think through what you want to do, what would the character, how would they respond? And also it gives you the advantage of extreme freedom in character creation, because you are not so much limited by what you as a player know and know not. What you can do and can do not. So for instance, if I, who do not know anything about biology, would like to play, I don't know, PhD genetics, I could do it in forum style because I would have the time to look up the smart words on Wikipedia, and I could sound smart, which I could not do in a real time played game. So there's this. Then there are audio video calls. I guess that's the most used and known kind of online RPG playing. I'm mentioning both of those because they are different. First, I will start with audiovisual. Audiovisual is kind of easier because you have a lot of means by which you can express yourself and express what your character is doing. You can not only talk and use your face, look, use what you are trying to say, what your character is feeling. You can also, use costumes, for instance. This is one of our plays we had with my friends, and the costumes do a lot because, it gets you in a mood.
And they are fun.
And they are fun. Actually, that's the skirt I have at my head. It's a skirt I just put over my head. And you can use movements, even though you cannot touch other players as you would in real life game. You can still use your hands and try to show what you are trying to do, because a lot of time it's easier to show than tell or describe. Also, the connection to others is better. In general, this is the easiest way to connect to the game, the story. When you are doing only audio, there is a bigger challenge in trying to express yourself in voices and sounds only. You can also use music. It's a nice touch to it. It can be more fun and can be more interesting. And it can definitely be more comfortable, because when you are doing in real life meeting or online with video call, you have to look like something all the time because people are seeing what you are doing. That can be sometimes a problem. Also, when you are online, I right now can see my video here and it's making me super nervous, which is distracting me. And if I would be playing, it would be distracting me enormously from being my character, because I'm seeing what I'm looking like and I might not like it and I might start acting differently. In a voice calls or audio only calls, this is not a problem. Also, it can be more comfortable that you can be lying in a bed and just listening to it as a podcast and reacting when you feel the time. But it can be hard to keep your attention because you are not so forced to listen. You are not, people do not see when your mind or eyes are drifting away. So there can be a moment when you just are staring in a blank space and thinking about what you will have for dinner. And then you find out that instant, if being at a tavern, you are already fighting a dragon. And if anything, it's really rude to not listen what your co-players are doing.
Are you talking for personal experience, Barbora?
Yes.
For the dragons in tavern, I mean.
I have a great problem with keeping my attention, and online role playing is super hard on me in this case. It's really challenging to keep my attention. So me and my party, we decided for my own sake to make regular breaks after 1 hour. So I can, I don't know, just clear my head a bit, do something else, go outside or something. And then we come back and then we are playing again. It's not ideal because we are breaking the role play, but it's better because then I'm not, then I'm not missing important parts. And the last thing I want to talk about are game books, which, as I mentioned before, are also called hyperlink fiction, which I, for instance, didn't know. So if you are interested in a further research, look it up. Game books you may know also as a physical booky thing. When you open the book and you are going to pages of certain numbers according to your decisions, you do as the story continues. But it is necessary to say it is the pre-created story, and you as a player do not have any creative input, which can be fine for some people because they are stressing over, I don't know, not being funny enough or not being cool enough. And this may be a good start to get into the world of role playing. But on the other hand, sometimes, you may not be satisfied with the pre-written paths, because there are still multiple paths, story paths you can follow, but not always, the options are not always what you as a person would do. But we are using gamebooks a lot at our LARPs when we are creating tiny encounters with some creatures, or at some locations. We are making mini gamebooks with like 10 to 20 decision points, which are really just for the players to have some fun, and they are really basic, and then can be a nice, nice detail to a whole campaign, or to a whole LARP. But if made as a thing that is working on its own, then there is a lot of work a game master or a creator has to put into it, and they can be really demanding. But I read some really good game books, and all who makes it, because it's super hard and but also fun. So go for it, try to read it, try to create something. Always say, to ask yourself, what would I do? Would I run? Would I go forward? And options, it teaches you a lot. Now, different stories are more suitable for different mediums. For instance, if you want to do something really, some action with pirates and sorting, it probably will not be perfect for text RPGs, as they are more complicated, as there is more complicated to describe really what is happening. It's harder to decide who is when, who is not, because there are no rules usually. On the other hand, when you know you are limited to play audio only, it would definitely be good to think about it when creating a story or a campaign. For instance, create a world in which we are in the middle of apocalypse, and the players can only talk to each other through walkie-talkies, so they cannot really see each other. Make it part of the story, so it makes sense. It's better. It's more engaging. You can always work with what you have, but in the end, you have to. It's better to try stuff out, to find out what suits you most. Because sometimes I just am in a mood to play RPG and my friend play online. So we play online, and sometimes I want to show or see my face. So I am playing text RPGs. So that's about it. Now, for a quick discussion, does anybody here have any experience with any of the styles I mentioned? What do you like the most? What do you prefer? Tell me.
Actually, there's already a comment in the chat.
Yeah, I will commit. Agreed on the attention part. Pain. I got to keep focus and understanding what was going on. Yeah, really, the attention is a big problem, especially online. I will talk about it a little bit in my next presentation about online tools. You create online campaign, and I will talk about session 0. During session 0, usually players and the game master talk about what they are comfortable with, what they are not, and what do they need. So if there would be a session 0 at your RPG, there would be probably some agreement on how you need to make breaks so you keep your attention. Or for instance, that you need to see a video or pictures to keep your attention. So yeah, that's a problem. And if you will be game mastering any campaign, any story, if you think about it. because game masters, as they are taught or like part of the story all the time, they sometimes forgot that some players are not part. Okay, anything else to ask?
Personally, I agree with you have been said, in particular on the thing, at least that it really mattered to me. It was about experimenting. So it's not really about something that is the best solution, but role-playing game is a vast world, and it can be really funneled in a lot of different ways. And I agree in the fact that experimenting is always good, because gives you an awareness of what works best for that situation in particular. Even audio only or text only experiences could be great in the right moment with the right people. So yeah, I think that it's more about the personal experience after all.
Yeah, definitely.
So, Barbara, if you have done, I can continue. If
Yeah, I guess I'm done.
Nobody wants to share some thoughts or feelings about this. Role-playing games are most importantly about stories. And there are tools, of course, like the one we have been talking about, the Discord, the Skype, but also virtual tabletops like Roll20, Foundry VTT, Fantasy Grounds, and stuff like that. But the main point is they all serve the purpose of storytelling, the story. So I think that you as a facilitator or a youth worker, you should also considering, yes, of course, learning how to handle the right tools, a game set, a game, the rules of the game. So first, of course, you are supposed, if you want to implement a live, a digital storytelling session of role-playing game, you first have supposed to decide which kind of games. For example, Dungeons and Dragons 5e is one of the most popular role-playing game, but it's not the only one. There are tons, dozens of many others. First decide what kind of games, then focus on what kind of platforms you're gonna use, and then of course decide the story you want to tell. The story depends, of course, on the your purposes, your educational aims, but the idea, the suggestions of the story, it can be brought from what your experience. Actually, you can invent by yourself, but you also can be influenced by TV shows or books or media or a good movie that you watched. And if you keep that frame in mind and you alter some and modify some characters, some details, you will find out that you come up with a story pretty soon and pretty easily. So I suggest you to keep the right things in mind and keep it as easy as possible, because storytelling is an art, and like many other arts, you can dive into it like for an eternity, for your life actually, without reaching the depth of that world. But it's also true that it can be really easy if you focus on the right things. So the story. And I suggest you to starting in particular from if you are a beginner, I suggest you to be influenced by some movies, TV shows, video games, or stuff like that. So it's a pretty well already made story. You can also be influenced, of course, from the sources of internet. There's so many chronicles already made for you to use at your advantage. And to decide the game, of course, this is about some rules and stuff good to know. And also, and now I am arriving to today's topic. Choose your platform. And today we're going to talk about Roll20. That's probably one of the most famous virtual tabletops that allows you to host a session or join them as a player. And the point is to decide what are the main infos, the main point, the crucial points, and start from there. But first, also keeping in mind that in virtual tabletops, it's not about the audio and video things. That's more about the live tabletop. The digital platform often need some materials, some music, some pictures, some tokens, some maps, and this material you're supposed to collect on the internet. There are a lot of websites, or you can find some of those items in Roll20 itself. In order to make some visual impact, also some music for the atmosphere, as Barbora said. I don't know if Barbora wants to add something else about the online tools that can support you.
Yes, I can. Again, I will try to share my screen. Please tell me if you can see the presentation.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, perfect. All right, so speaking of tools, I try to condense them into 4 most important groups that are most important if you want to run an online campaign. Now, the first one will be platforms for communication. The second one will be platforms for note-taking, then maps and setting creators, and last but not least, the gameplay. And then I will mention some details, of course, and there will be conclusion. Now, for communication, there is important to mention the foreshadow session 0. When you are playing a normal game or campaign, you usually meet with other players and your game master to talk a bit about who you, if you don't know each other, to meet to tell about, to say what experience with RPG do you have, what do you expect from this campaign or from this game, or for instance, what are your triggers, which are really important to know for everybody else in your party, so they can avoid making you uncomfortable while playing. And when playing online, we do something called session 0.0, when we meet before anything else, and we settle down on which platform will we be using. Because we found out that every device, every computer, for some reason, prefers different software. They work differently. We don't know how it works, but it is what it is. So there are things like Discord, which are quite multi-purpose, but at the same time, we tend to have quite a lot of issues. There are platforms like Zoom, which on the other hand are really good and reliable, but they are paid for, or you are limited to 45 minutes, I believe. It was like that like a year ago. And after 45 minutes, the meeting would shut down and you would have to start again, which is not really desired when you are in the middle of a an important scene. So here are just some tips. In general, this whole presentation will be about me giving you tips, which I consider to be a good starting point. But by any chance, do not feel limited or to use them. Yes, they are just something for you to get inspired. When it comes to notes, we found out that it's always best to use what people are comfortable with. So if you are used to using Facebook a lot, by all means, create a Facebook group and post information or documents about your character and sessions and discoveries to a Facebook group. Me and my friends are really used to using Discord. So we have all the notes on Discord. We have different channels for different kind of stuff. Also, we are using quite often Google Docs and disks. I have a, will it work? I'm sorry, because my internet is running a bit slow, but I hope. What my shared Google Disk look like? It was just a shared Google Docs folder where me, my game master, shared documents. I wrote reports there from every session. He gave me visions because I was playing for a fortune teller, and we exchanged it like that because we both were used to using Google Documents and we felt comfortable with it. Also, there are more complex and I don't know, fancy tools you can use like Word of Anvil. And again, I will not even try to open it because it would break my computer. Probably, I don't know. Map creators, then again, you don't have to be fancy when playing RPGs online, or generally you don't have to be fancy when playing any RPGs. You can keep it simple. But sometimes if you have the time, if you have the energy, if you have the ideas, you can make it more fancier because your players will appreciate it. They will like well-done maps. They will enjoy that you're doing fun art, graphics, making custom soundtracks. It is something that elevates the game just to a next level. It is not necessary for the players to enjoy the story, to enjoy their characters, but it is a nice thing to add. So I listed here 4 major maps creators, which I know about and my friends are using. I'm not creating maps myself, but I ask them what they think about each of them. Now, Dungeon Draft and Wonder Draft, they are one-time purchase. All of those I'm listing here have some kind of free trial, but usually if you want, and the free trial is usually restricting you to create a certain amount of maps. But if you pay, you have more tools and unlimited amount of maps you can create. Now, Dungeon Draft is for $20, I'm not sure, dollars or euros one-time purchase, and Wondercraft is about 30. And they both have really nice, clean art. They are compatible with a lot of gameplay platforms, and in general, they're nice. Dungeon Craft is predominantly for locations and Wondercraft for a whole maps, but I mean, you can Google them up and you can see for yourself if you like them.
I love them. I use it all the time. I couldn't live without them.
And Dungeon Folk is subscribed monthly for, I don't know, something about €5. It's not so much. And it is really versatile. Now, you don't have to use creators if you want to go fancy and create them up. You can do it all the way and draw it on a paper, then scan it, maybe run it through Microsoft Paint, or I don't know, make some red crosses there where the treasure lies, and you have a map, and it works just as well. You can download some maps which are already pre-created and are free to use online, and so on. So if you do not feel like creating a map, you don't have to, but if you want to try it, here are the options. Now, and most important, for the gameplay, I chose those 5 platforms, of which 3 I am regularly using, and 1 I know as a software, but I'm not using for RPGs. The one I'm not using for RPGs is Tabletop Simulator. We bought it during Corona because me and my friends wanted to play tabletop games because we just love them, and we had full-on withdrawal symptoms when we were shaking because we couldn't play our GAM, so it was really bad. So it is really good for that, but I find it problematic if you do not have good computer, because the software is quite demanding, and it can be from the beginning weird to move in there, because it's like virtual reality when you are moving around the table, but you can have figures, you can roll dice. It's really cool, but from the point of view when you want to be practical and read your information well and know where everybody is, I do not find it so good. Then there is a Roll20, which is, I feel like it was one of the most used gameplay platforms in past few years. It really rocked up during Corona, and I like it I like it a lot because it's super versatile. You can do chat games. The text RPG I showed you earlier, we are playing it on Roll20 because we can whisper there. We can have multiple characters on one account. We can have character sheets. We have some space next to the. Actually, I can show you Roll20. I preloaded it. So this is and this see Roll20.
Yes.
Okay. So this is Roll20. Here, sometimes our game master sends us some pictures. Here we have our text space when we are texting for our characters. I have multiple characters on my account because I am playing for some other characters as well. We do not have character sheets here, but if we would, I could have them here and look into them. Roll also offers you to roll automatically. You know, Roll is really nice, quite simple, intuitive. You can get to it quite easily. It is for free, and it offers you everything you need to execute a campaign. And what is most important, it is not very demanding. You don't have to download any app, anything. Foundry, Virtual Tabletop, and Fantasy Grounds, I find those two quite similar. They both are applications you have to download, or programs you have to download into your device. They are a little bit more demanding when it comes to the computer, but I am playing on a literal calculator, and I'm doing fine. So do not worry. You just cannot, like, at the same time be, I don't know, playing poker online, but nobody wants that. They're fairly similar. I'm using Fantasy Grounds, and I really like how how supportive they are. For players who are playing with rule-oriented RPGs for the first time, in Fantasy Grounds, you have character sheets, and they are helping you calculate how many and which dices you are rolling, what you are adding for bonuses, and it's really good. Once you enter all that data of your character in, it's really easy to use the character, which is nice. It is paid service, though only one person, actually only one, the game master has to own the game to be able to invite anybody else. And from what I know, when I ask my friends, it usually is that the party, everybody pays a bit from the whole amount, and then they are sharing the entrance code, or the entrance code. So that's usually how it works from what I heard. And when it comes to something really super easy to start working with, no login, no downloading, immediate usage, we are using Owlbear Rodeo, which is only a web application or web app where you upload your map, and other players can join with a code you send them, and you can use things like Fog of War, which is helping you to make some things not visible. Or you can use tokens, you can use some basic marking stuff, and that's really all you need. So if you are playing a campaign which was originally not supposed to be using a map, but you are in the middle of a fight or somewhere, and players seem to be confused and not sure where they are, how many orcs or dwarves they are seeing, you can use Owlbear Rodeo. It takes no time to make it run. Everybody can see the map in a moment. They can move their tokens. You can allow them to see what you want them to see, and it is really user-friendly. It is super simple. And of course, and as Francesco mentioned, details. Details really matter, and I recommend them. Music, you want to have some nice background, chattering, or light flutes, or whatever comes to your mind that would be fitting. So we sometimes have our game master is, he likes writing songs, so he is writing our songs that are part of the story. For instance, there is a riddle hidden in a song. We have to listen to the song in a tavern and then figure where we are supposed to go or what is happening from the song, which can be real fun, and it again makes you engaged in different way. And graphics, make it look nice, allow players, encourage your players to have profile pictures of their characters, draw fan art if you are an artistic person, make things look nice, show your players pictures when you can, just make colorful and engaging and fun. Now, what I feel to be a real advantage of playing online is that, for instance, with music, when your game master decides that some music is suitable for some scene, you don't have to accept his, design choice, because you can simply mute the source of the music, and you can put on your own music, which I actually am using quite often because I am really soundtracky person, and I'm creating my own soundtracks for each campaign, for each character, and not so often what game master is playing really goes with what I have in mind. So I'm playing my own music in the background while I am playing with others. This would be really hard if we were in one room in person. So it's a nice touch. I wanted to let you know about this advantage you have. And that's pretty much all for me. Be aware of the limitations of online. Be prepared for online softwares to not work, because I did not have one single session where everything would work finally. Like not single one. Somebody's internet were down, somebody's connection was unstable, somebody's microphone was not working, somebody's cat jumped from, I don't know, somewhere and break something, and something was not working every time. So count on it. Make during the session 0, talk with others. What will you do when technical issues occur? Will you continue without the player? Will you be waiting for the player? If you will be waiting, for how long? Do they have 15 minutes to repair it? If they do not repair it in time, you will continue, or will you end the session for the day? You know, it's good to have these things pre-decided in advance, so then you know what you can work with. Now, what I said before, different games, different styles. Some games need to have really good video, so you can see what others are doing, how they are, I don't know, if they are smiling, if they are not. Others games do not really need video at all. Some need some specific writing stuff. I don't have words, I'm sorry. For instance, when we are playing our text RPG, we need to have an option to whisper to each other. So that's why we chose Roll, because it was the best we could find, best software we could find that would suit our needs. And don't be afraid to keep it simple. If you have time, if you have energy, you can improve your campaign, but do not get super over focused on creating maps when you do not even have basic story, when you do not even have players. Maybe, you know, start from the beginning and build it up. And that's pretty much it.
So thank you, Barbora. I think you were clear enough. I wonder if is there any question about this? If some of you have some thoughts who wants to share?
And really, you don't have to be afraid to ask or comment on anything. We are here to introduce you to what we like and what we feel is valuable. And we want you to understand it and more, and we will be super happy to tell you anything about it, really. Thank you, Natasha.
So now I'd like to talk with you about something a bit more practical, because in this kind of field there are a lot of words that must be spoken, but in the end it's all about what you're gonna do. And I would like to talk about Roll20, some basics information that you need to know in order to run a role-playing game, a digital one. So I will share the screen. I don't know if you can see the screen. Okay, great.
Yes, we can.
This is a common profile on Roll20. As Barbora said, Roll20 is one of the most popular user-friendly platform. But even though it's the most probably one of the most user-friendly, there are some notions to know and today we talked about this. So before the game, you're supposed to create an account. A free one, it's also okay, even though the premium one can unlock a lot of cool features. Let's keep with the premium, the free one. It's gonna be okay for now. So we go here, and this is for instance a common game that you can easily create, and hit the launch game button. Roll20 is gonna prepare some things, and then we'll put you probably on a very blank board, something like this at the beginning. There's a grid. I don't know if you can see. It's gonna be a blank thing, actually. In this blank thing that we call scene, we can put images like maps, like the one Barbora said, or PNC portrait, landscapes, or whatever you think you might need that help you to tell the story. So just consider the scenes that you can add from this left up corner very easily. Consider the screens as spaces for you to experiment, to create. This, for instance, I put this image, but actually you can put whatever image you want. And today, let's try to talk with a very basic story. But before talking about this, let's try to go toward first things to know. So number one, the game, the story, and the platform, as we said. So the game, D&D 5e is going to be okay for a beginner, but even advanced people tend to like this game, even though there are many others. Actually, I'm not very fond of this game, but I know that it's there's a huge community. It's pretty easy after all, and it's very well supported with a lot of materials that can be downloaded or bought for you to run chronicles and stuff. Second point, as Barbora said, the audio video on Roll20 actually tends to be unpredictable on Roll20, even though it's possible. That's why Barbora suggested you to try other alternatives, like, for example, Zoom or Skype or whatever, Discord or whatever you like, actually. And my suggestion is to keep it separate. So Roll20 is best used just for the game normally. And on the other hand, you can run a Discord or a Skype calls or whatever you need to establish the link for the audio video things. Then the third point, it's about the material. Before entering the Roll20 things, I suggest you to collect some materials, and the materials can be collected once again, as Barbora said, on Pinterest, on Google, on internet pretty easily, actually. For example, if you just like, I don't know, search a fantasy tavern, I don't know what's gonna happen. You just click right here, put the images, and then bam, tons of portraits, some of cool things that you can use at your advantage because they are free, and you can download them and you can just put inside your game pretty easily, actually. And so my suggestion is, once again, to prepare a little bit before Roll20, so it's gonna be a bit smoother when you prepare the session. Then some practical stuff. Let's say you have done all of it, or most of it. You're in a blank space, and you're supposed to know how to move. So the pen is with the right click on the mouse. You can do like this. You can create the little hand, and you know, you can pen the visual, but you can also zoom in or zoom out with the little wheel on your mouse. So with these two commands, you control pretty everything. The left click, it's actually about more the selecting option. In the left up corner, you can see the select tool, the little square on the left up corner, and you can actually move the things. This is a text, but you can move images or tokens. What about the tokens? So tokens, let's say there are little figures, little images, or of the people on your map. We are going to talk about this with a map, so it's a bit easier for you to understand, but it's actually, it's a very simple concept. There is a map, and there are all the things you can move that represent the character in the map moving. So it's going to be really easy when I'll show you with the map in front. The fifth point, the division in scenes. As I said, here in the page toolbar on the right up corner, you can see the scenes. Some of the scene I already prepared, but as I showed you, it's really easy to create new pages. Just one click, and then you can just go inside whatever you think you might need. This, for example, is an interior location of a church or a temple or something like this. With the visual impact, you might notice that they're a bit easier for you to be engaged, to be part of it, the narration. But there's, of course, there's also going to be a little of narration. A cool master will give you some cool description of what you feel inside of this place, why you are in this place, and what you want to obtain, what's your purposes, maybe someone you want to meet, or I don't know, there are tons of possibility. It depends on the story. So as I said previously, also the story can be really, it's actually really important. And I suggest you to have the clearest idea about the story you want to tell, because this will save you tons of time. And today, sixth point, the grid. This is the grid. As you probably might see, this is gonna help you to move the tokens. I'll show you one. Let's say this one is gonna be okay. Here it is. I don't know if you can see this, the little ginger guy. I think it's a dwarf or a gnomish probably. And this token, as part of the material you can easily find on internet, is gonna be probably one of the character rolled by one of your player, and you can move it with the arrows on your keyboard or with your mouse or whatever you want, just wherever you want. And this is gonna be handy with a map on the background. I'll show you this one. This is a sci-fi setting, for example. Zoom out a little bit. So it probably has some facility of some sort, or probably a spaceship. And these are tokens. They are a bit different, as you might notice, but it's the same concept actually. The red guys are supposed to be the enemies, the really tough guy who want to do something, and this is the protagonist. As I said, the token can be moved pretty easily, and it's helpful in order to recreate conflicts and battles. In particular, during those points, the map can be really handy. During the narration, the talking, like you meet some guy and you talk with him and doing stuff like that. It's not really a necessity, but it can be a necessity a bit more during the conflicts, because some of your players can ask you, okay, but where am I exactly? Am I in front of the bad guys? Am I at their side? And this kind of things is really troublesome if you consider that a role-playing game party can be 3, 4, 5, or 6 people, or maybe more. And this can be a bit confusing if you rely just on your chat, on your narration, or your storytelling, because you're supposed to make the clear thing for 6 people or more. But with a map, with something like this, it can be a bit easier. So if some players say, okay, I don't want to fight with them, they seem tough, I just want to escape, it's a bit easy for all the other people to consider where is the person in particular, and how to deal with that in real time. So this is the main use of the grid, the map, and the tokens. Let's come back a bit, and let's talk about the point number 7, the layers and the stratification. In Roll20, but also in other virtual tabletop, there's this concept. It's about the layers, and normally there are at least 3 layers: the map layer, the token layer, as I show you like this, but also the GM layer. So this is about a bit more for the narrator, for the storytelling. In order to participate in this, you don't need to know the concept of layer. But if you want to run a game, of course you do, because, for example, if we want to continue in this part, let's say we have this situation. This protagonist is supposed to, I don't know, keep this item, is supposed to be, I don't know, an artifact or a bomb or whatever you think you need. But probably, let's say you don't want to show him immediately that he is right there. Maybe he's concealed in some way, hidden in some aura or whatever. And you can put it in the GM layer. You might see that now the token is opaque. And this is because players are not supposed to see this item anymore, but we see as DM because it's the GM layer. Let's consider them as a stratification of the hidden objects. This is for the token layer. So it's more about the thing that moves around the area, and normally are characters or antagonists like this, and they are pretty easily to move, as you see. But there's also another layer, the map layer, in which there is the image of the map itself. So it's a bit a way for the Roll20 things to clean a bit what are the things in which layer. Normally you will start to recreate something like this, just putting the map in the map layer. And you can do it like putting an image, right-clicking like this, and you can see this layer. And my advice is to put the map probably in the layer I've been talking about, the map layer, because you won't move anymore, because we will move to the upper layer, to the token layer right now. And so in this layer, when I click on the map, nothing is moving, and it's a bit more stable, and you can, as a DM, move freely all the tokens around without the fear of moving also the map. You know, you can do a bit more of chaotic things, like this. I'm moving the whole map away, and that can be a bit confusing for the people. So just keep this in mind. The map layer is for the map, very easy. The tokens are for the tokens layer, you wouldn't bet. And finally, the GM layer. This is completely optional. It's okay just to consider the first two, the map and the token are okay. But if you want to, I don't know, to show the players something that appeared immediately, for example, the antagonist, maybe they were invisible for some armor or for whatever reason, you can put before in the GM layer, then go in the GM layer overlay in the left up corner, and from this moment put it in the token layer when you decide you want to show to the player, like this, bam, and comes back from being opaque to being fully visible. So this is just a concept to keep it in mind, and I suggest you to experiment, because I think that it might be a bit more astonishing at the beginning, but it's very easy as soon as you get into it and as soon as you try it. So these are the things I wanted to talk about from the very beginning. And now we dive a bit into a story. the story, let's say, let's keep in mind a very simple story. Let's say that this guy, this is a portrait. Once again, I downloaded all the images, I put in there, and let's say this guy is supposed to accompany you, ask you to be with him for to fight some enemies that are inside of a strange place. Now let's talk about this fantasy setting. And let's talk about a swamp, for example, or a forest. And if the party accepts, probably after a journey, you will find something like this, the right spot, the entrance of this strange tower. And as soon as you go inside of it, you will find that it's connected with some caves underground. And the things can be tricky. Of course, I'm just skipping and just moving forward, but in every place, for every encounters, the DM will talk about this, will describe a lot of the things that happens, wait for the players to answer and go on. The party explores the caves, but then find out that they are not so easy to be explored. This, for example, is a map. It's a completely different thing, but it's shared the things that we needed a cave. So let's bring again our little guy that represent the whole party, the whole group. And actually, we can move it and decide to explore the caves. There are several decisions to be made. You can go in opposite way. You will find obstacles, probably. You can find antagonists, traps, or whatever. And when we go from the very end of it, let's say here, you will probably find the bad guy. It's a kind of a monster or something like this. And after a huge fight, a cruel one, there's a little plot twist. And he discovers, the party discovers that the guy from the beginning is actually someone who just wants to exploit the party and the death of the party, leaving alone before the main conflict. This is just a simple story, you know. But if the party succeeding facing the antagonist, the monster, the Draugr, or whatever you want to call it, and he succeeded in finding the truth and come back from the dangerous place, a story has been unfolded, you know. And the party can decide if look after this guy that betrayed the party or just moving on or whatever. It's up to the party. But this is just an example for me to show you how simple can be to describe a story. It's just about how the flow is and what kind of pictures, what kind of maps, what kind of tokens you might need. Even though at the beginning, I know it's really difficult because in particular, when you're a beginner, you don't know a lot of stuff. That's why it's important to experiment. And don't be afraid to do some mistakes. It's really okay. It's really natural for the flow. But the point is that when you step forward, step into the process, you will find that Roll20, but in general, a lot of virtual tabletop can be at your disposal to tell the stories. And if you are a facilitator, if you are a youth worker, you can use this kind of storytelling to follow your objective, to follow your aims, educational one. For example, you can put some tests, some riddles, some mathematic things in order to open a magic sealed door, or whatever, some linguistical riddles. And that can be useful if you think that maybe this play is for, I don't know, foreign people that still might understand your language. and can be used in a lot of different ways. So this is just a very simple thing. And I don't want to talk much more because I'm afraid I can put too much material from the beginning, but just keep in mind that for the visual part, you will work with these tabs, these scenes. And for the music part, you will work in this category over here. And you just, you can add some tracks you probably already downloaded and just put inside your game, because as Barbora said, it's really important. And the details in this kind of role-playing games are very fascinating. It can be a huge difference. So I think that's pretty much it. But if some of you has some question, feelings or thoughts, or if some of you have tried as a DM or maybe just as a player, it's okay if you want to talk.
I also think it would be nice to mention that a lot of gameplay softwares like Roll20, Fantasy Grounds, Foundry, VTT offer you to buy or use pre-made campaigns. When you do not feel like creating your own story, or you just like something you've seen somewhere, you can use that. For instance, when there was a new system of City of Mist, we weren't sure if we want to buy the core books and start playing by the system. So we bought a one-shot, played on Roll20, and the advantage of the pre-created one-shots or campaigns in general is that everything is set up. You have the maps finished, you have the tokens, you have the story, you have the encounters, and you are just executing, you as a game master, the story for others. And that is, some people think that this is cheating or something. It definitely is not. You are giving it your creative energy, and you are making the story come to life. So this is just a hint for you. If you do not feel like creating your own story just yet, you can use pre-created campaigns which are compatible with most of the gameplay tools.
Sure, I completely agree. And I was thinking that even in other arts, if you think about it, like in paintings, even Raphael or Michelangelo at the start, they started copying other things already made for, to interiorize the autonomy. And this is very much applicable to our setting, to our things. It's, in my opinion, it's an art, completely an art by itself. And at the beginning, if you copy, is completely fine and can help you a lot during the struggle of the very first days as a dungeon master. And yes, it can be a bridge toward your expectations. What do you think about this? Does anybody wants to say something?
I'm not sure if this is a demonstration of attention lost, or if just
we left you speechless, isn't it?
or if we are just too good, but
it's okay. Even if you want to say something in the chat, it's also okay. So if some of you is a bit shy, don't be afraid at all. You can just chat. And regarding in the final part, regarding the little assignment, we have been talked a lot today, but I agree. I think that it's very important to keep it practical, to keep it simple, and there's no an easier way to do that if you just try to experiment. So that's why I want to share with you this little slide over here, a little assignment. If some of you wants to experiment, it's not about a test, it's just for yourself, you know, for your personal growth. And I dare you to try and to prepare an online LARP or role-playing game. It's okay to copy, as I said, it's okay to download free material. It's okay to experiment, because this can be the real difference between you know, some that just didn't try it, but or on the contrary, some that instead stepped forward and make the difference actually. And if some of you wants to try during the last webinar, the 5th webinar, we will talk about this, and you will find colleague of ours to talk about it. So, thank you for your attention. Thank you for your presence. Thank you for everything. I hope that it was somehow interesting, and I think that's it from my side. I don't know if Barbora or Ilias wants to say something.
Thank you very much, Francesco and Barbora. From my side, I will be sending you the evaluation forms of this webinar and some extra information. So feel free to fill it up. It takes 1 to 2 minutes, but it's very, very helpful for us, the organizations, and the whole project itself. Thank you for your attention.
And I thank you for coming here, for being interested into RPGs and LARPs. Hopefully you will make your own campaigns soon enough. And
so I think that's it, and goodbye everybody, and have a great evening, and hopefully a bright future in the role-playing game stuff.
Thank you. Good night.
thank you. Bye.
Bye everybody.